guys, how's it going? Bernadette here. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope that wherever you are in the world that you're having a good week, a good day, a good night. So, as always, I like to introduce myself to anyone who may be new to the podcast. My name is Bernadette Desir. I am a Haitian Canadian adoptee, mother, podcaster, mental health advocate, and I am so thrilled and I love what I do. And I couldn't do it without you. So, welcome to the podcast community. I am so happy that you're here. All right. So, I'm doing a series you could call it, of more information on the podcast. That's the best way to put it. And of frequently asked questions that people may have for me when it comes to the podcast. Okay. So check out any recent videos relating to the podcast. There should be a playlist on the Unleashing Potentials podcast official YouTube channel that is labeled Podcast Talk. All right. So on there, it is my hope to um, pick out different questions, if not all of the questions that you guys have asked me about the podcast. For example, when did I start it? Why did I start it? The mission and so on. So in today's video, I'm gonna go in depth in details of all of those questions. I'm gonna ask them and I'm gonna answer them for you in the hope of giving you a sense of direction and of the purpose and mission of the podcast. That way you have more information. Maybe you're new, maybe you want to have an interview. Um, you just have questions. Guess what? I got answers for you. All right. So stay until the end of this video, or just watch what resonate with you. Okay. All right. So I have, let me see here, how many questions. If I'm looking down, I have notes I'm looking in. Okay. I have 12 plus key points that I need to get through to this video. All right, so hang in tight. So let's get to the first one. What inspired you to start a podcast? People ask me that all the time. I love it. So I would say my personal journey inspired me to start a podcast, you guys. Okay. And I love hearing people's stories. And I love hearing how people have overcome struggles and obstacles and very hard times in life. Okay. Because I've overcome so many challenges. I'm still overcoming and going through challenges. All right. I love the rawness, the authenticity, the power, the healing, and inspiration that people brings through sharing their stories. So that's why I started a podcast, to serve you, for you to serve as well. And in the process, hey, maybe magic happened. Maybe we help each other heal. Who knows? Okay. Key point number 2. When did you start a podcast and what is your audience? Okay. So I started the Unleashing Potentials podcast in 2022. And prior to that, I think around the pandemic time, I had a different podcast that I was just, testing the waters to see how it went. It used to be called Breaking Barriers, but I changed it to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. All right. But yeah, that's when I started the podcast. My audience is everyone, to be honest. And sometimes people either love that or they're just either baffled or confused. How is it that your audience is everybody? How can that be? Obviously, you have to be over 18 to be on the podcast. Okay, let me make that clear. Okay. And people from all walks of life, all countries, all religions, all languages, from every corner of the world that I can think of, so far that I've had on the podcast. All right. And yeah, my audience is everybody. And if you have a story, that's what the podcast is for. All right. Third key point or question, you may say, what is your podcast about? What is the purpose of your podcast? That's a really good question. Let's say you're watching this. I did another video of the core mission, the value, the purpose of the podcast. Okay. So be sure to check that out. But I'm going to insert this one right here as well into this video. Okay. Maybe you haven't checked out the previous video. Uh, okay, so the podcast is about creating a safe space and place for people to share their stories, their journey, their expertise, their struggles, and to listen to them. It's to inspire growth, inspire healing, connection, and to let people know that they're not alone. All right. All right. Let's get to the fourth key point or question. How can I be a guest on the podcast? That's a beautiful question that I love because I love having anybody to come and share. It's simple. Honestly, I make it very easy. I structured everything very easy for everybody to come to share. You can be a guest on the podcast. I don't know which platform you're watching this on. Maybe you're on Facebook, maybe you're on YouTube. You can be a guest by emailing me at the podcast email, which is unleash two, that's the number two, potentials with S at gmail.com. All right. Or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram or where else am I? TikTok. I'm still figuring that part out. All right. So that's essentially how you can be part of the podcast. All right. And my other question is are there specific topics that you focus on? Yes and no. Okay. I focus on stories and transformation, breaking generational trauma, rediscovering the joy, the purpose of others and of yourself. And I also talk about mental health quite a bit, you guys. I will be doing a separate video to walk you guys through my mental health battle and the journey that I continue to go through. Briefly, for those who know or don't know, I am diagnosed with schizophrenia, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. The schizophrenia part definitely terrifies people. And there's a lot of stigma, barriers, shame, guilt, and embarrassment when it comes to it. You're looking at many miracles, me, okay? So I am here to break the cycle, to erase the shame, the stigma. I'm here as a voice for those who are not ready to speak. I'm also here to walk alongside those who have spoken and those who have done the work, the healing journey. I'm here to bridge the gap, whichever gaps it is. I'm just here. All right. So I will be sharing more of that. You will want to tune into that video once I'm ready to do it, which will be very soon, probably next week or early February. Okay. I'll be sharing when I got diagnosed, what I got diagnosed with in more details, what it is, the stigma, medications, the healing journey, and so much more. Okay. See, I can get into this and talk. Okay. And also I talk about chronic pain, which I suffer with. You can't tell because it's invisible, just like mental health diagnosis. You can't see it. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist, doesn't mean it's not there. All right, you guys. And it's to continue to empower people. Okay. That's essentially some of the many topics I've talked about. Okay, you guys? And the other question is, how can I promote my business or project on the podcast? Easy. You have to be a guest to promote, though. I try to keep it that way. All right. That way, you're part of the podcast. Okay. Um, you can join and promote by sharing your journey on Facebook, on YouTube by emailing me. So yeah, you have to be a guest on the podcast to be able to promote a lot of stuff. Um, but you can keep it brief with a post if you're not a guest, but I would prefer for you to be a guest to promote your work. All right, and what you do. Okay. My other question that people ask a lot is, how long are your podcast episodes? It depends on the conversation, honestly, and it depends on the guest I'm interviewing. Okay. So the length of recordings goes from 30 minutes to an hour and a half or 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But the longest is an hour. Okay. An hour and an hour and a half. The shortest is 30 minutes. Okay. It all depends on the guest I'm interviewing and what they're ready to share. Okay. Next question. Drum roll. Let's see here. Can I request specific topics or suggest podcast guests on your podcast? Yes, 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 you can. Okay. Absolutely can. And you can have them email me. You can have them message me on Facebook or other platforms I'm on. And please suggest topics. Like I need to hear your input and suggestions. So when you say, hey, I think that's what you should talk about or focus on. Can I join you to talk about it? Like, oh yeah, let's do it. Okay. So continue to express your views and input and ideas. I love ideas. Okay. Next questions. Are there restrictions on what can be discussed on the podcast? Yes and no. Okay. Go back to another video that I did about guidelines and rules of the podcast. Okay. And while I encourage you to be authentic, to express yourself, to not shy away from who you are while you share, I do want to continue to create a safe environment for people to share. So no hateful speech, discrimination, and so on. Okay. I want people to be who they are and not have to put on a mask to please other people, to pretend that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I want to share, and to allow anybody to share. Okay. So I'll leave it at that. And my next one is, where can I listen to your podcast? You can listen to the podcast on YouTube under the Unleashing Potentials podcast YouTube channel. What else? Spotify and other platforms. Okay. That's where you can listen to it. And next question. How often are new episodes released? That is a very good question. Okay. So when I first started the podcast, I had time in my hand. I still sort of do. I used to release one episodes every single day. I know lots of podcasters who do it every day. Some do it twice a week, 3 times a week, but I cannot do it every day anymore. Why? Because I do everything on the podcast alone. It's a lot of editing, cropping, a lot of messaging. Anything that you see that happens on the podcast, I'm behind it all. Not AI, although AI does help me, but I do it all. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Okay. And I'm practicing healthy energy boundaries, which means I protect my time, I protect my energy, and I give out what I have. I make sure my cup is full before I can reach into it to give to you. Okay. And next question people ask, which I love. People ask, how can I support the podcast? I've had lots of people who ask, and I love and appreciate that you guys ask that. It means the world to me. Why? Because I'm not charging for anyone to be on the podcast. I've thought about it so many times. All right. Should I charge people to share their stories? Yes and no, yes and no. I go back and forth between my thoughts, my ideas, and how I should do this. Uh, After wrestling with it, it's a no for now. Okay. Why? Because everybody's struggling with something, especially financially. Not everyone is able to pay to be on a podcast just to share their stories. Not that I'm saying those who do charge, it's a bad idea, they shouldn't do it. That's just me. That's just my method and process and the podcast. All right. So you can support the podcast, you guys. Let's say you're tech savvy. Let's say you're really good at that kind of stuff. Please help me. Okay. You can help me manage social media posts. I've been wanting to create a website for the past 2, 3 years. I don't understand it. I've tried. It's just not coming together. It's taking a lot of time. Let's say you're good at that. Maybe you have a company. Maybe you want to freely donate your gifts and expertise. Please do that, okay? And obviously, any types of financial donations um, or sponsorship would help me quite a lot. Why? Because I can get better stuff to create. I eventually want to have a small studio of some kind with a very cozy room or background that radiate and exude love, peace, and happiness. That way, when you're sharing your story, people can connect with different colors, just the ambience of the podcast, okay, and the theme of it, okay? So that would be helpful, okay? What else do I have to share? Here are some other ways you can support me, support the podcast, okay? You can become a co-host. You can become a short-term co-host or a long-term co-host, right? Because maybe you just want to test the waters. You've always wanted to start a podcast. You don't know the process. You don't know how to, it's just a lot. You don't have the time. Okay. You can be a short-term co-host, meaning you help me conduct interviews. You show up, help me do Facebook Live on topics you're passionate about, or I'm passionate about, or that people are passionate about, or hot topics that are happening. Okay. And long-term co-host, that one will take me a while. You would have to go through being a short-term co-host, and I would extend it a little bit. And your mission would have to align with what I want to do and put out. Okay. As you can see, the podcast is my home. It's one of my babies, and I treasure it. I love it. And I want you to be able to sort of feel very similar to that and to actually dedicate your time to show up. Okay. And yeah, you can, as I've said, help me develop a website, spread the word, invite people, share links, share episodes, and provide me with your feedbacks and ideas. And lastly, before I wrap up this, you can buy my art. You guys, I paint. I started painting few years ago. And I'll tell you the story because I'll be talking about arts in a separate video. Okay. You can buy my paintings. I'll ship them to you. You pay me, I paint, I podcast, and we're all happy. Okay. So that's how you can help. Okay. And you can also join the podcast group, which is the Unleashing Potentials podcast community on Facebook. And you can join my art group, which is on Facebook. It's called Poetry and Art Lovers. On there, you can share anything that you create. Okay. And yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this video up. But before I wrap up, here are some stuff that I've covered and continue to cover on the podcast, as in topics. Okay. Business, entrepreneurship, health and wellness, technology, innovation, personal development, arts, cultures, motherhood, fatherhood, parenthood, NDEs. Oh, I love those. If you had an NDE, you want to tell us about it, please reach out and let me know. I want to hear it. I'm into that kind of stuff. Okay. And also, if you're psychic, medium, if you have abilities, visions, past lives, I want to hear all about it. Please reach out. I'm into all of that. Okay. And also galactic history, cosmic wisdom. Oh, come share, please. Okay. And star seeds, I'm into that as well. Spiritual awakening, I've been having a very painful one. Come share that as well. And just angelic and divine connection, come share that. Okay. All right. That is a wrap for this video. Stay tuned for more exciting videos and amazing episodes that will be airing on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. Again, I'm the founder and the host of the podcast. It is an honor to be part of your journey. And the journey will be hard. It's a process. Don't rush it because it will be more painful. And endure because you'll come on the other side of it. All right. I wish you guys love, light, life, and happiness. Until next time.